Hello, and welcome to Women in Business, where we interview entrepreneurs and senior managers and show you the strengths, successes, obstacles, and roadblocks women experience in business. Since I believe every person in business needs to be visible, I'd like to invite you to watch www.sob6, that's the number 6, tips.com, which will give you some valuable information should you get the call to be on radio or TV, which I think is extremely important. If you'd like to contact me personally, drop me a line at Gayle Carson, that's Gayle, Gayle Carson 13 at gmail.com, or go to my website, www.spunkyoldbroad.com, and sign up for my weekly newsletter.
Hi, everyone. My guest today is Alison Donaghey. She is the radio host of The Alison Donaghey Show, author of an international best-selling book, Think Opposite, Using the Domino Effect to Change Your Business, Change the World. And she's a speaker and a cause and effect strategist that will expand your mind in ways you didn't even think possible. Her latest project is the number mark, the hashtag, my part. Accepting your part in every single situation we find ourselves in, which brings us to a place of true empowerment with the goal to see ourselves as part of humanity as a whole, rather than dividing it into or victims and victimizers, oppressed and oppressor, thus moving towards understanding the inherent value of everyone. And I've had the opportunity to meet Alison personally. She is one of the most well-spoken and well-read and well-developed people I know, because she's got a great, diverse look at life. So welcome, Alison, to the show.
Oh, thank you. I think I'm blushing a little bit. You're so sweet.
Well, I guess we should talk about, because this is a women in business show, why you are so passionate about thinking of business as a great option for women.
Well, I was a single mom on welfare when I started my company. And at that time, there wasn't that many options available for me beyond retail minimum wage type jobs. I hadn't finished my degree at university. I felt completely unqualified to do much of anything. And my boyfriend at the time had taught me how to paint, and he was a house painter, and he passed away in '99. And I thought, oh gosh, what am I going to do? And I found myself back on welfare. I was, as I say, a single mom. And so I started my business, and it has given me a life that I never would have been able to otherwise have. And I am just so grateful for that. I was grateful that I was able to have a business that allowed me to go to all of my son's basketball games, and anything that was important to him, I never had to miss it. And it's such a great opportunity for us to be mothers and create a life that we want.
So this is a really important message for women out there who are single moms. Sometimes you find yourself in it's funny. Society paints two different kinds of pictures. They paint the picture of the single mom with a kid who has gotten everything from her divorce. In other words, she's on easy street, never has to worry about anything, and poor dad is living in one room. And then you have the other one where the father has everything and the mother has nothing, and really has nothing to take care of her child with, because the father is out of there. So you're showing people this is a great way to become financially independent, to be a great mom to your kid or kids, and also really develop you as a woman and as a strong woman. So you're in a male-dominated industry. So tell us a little bit about that. I mean, what was it like making that decision to go into that business in that industry?
Sure. I think I was a little bit perhaps naive. I thought, what's the big deal? I'll just start my house painting company. But I wasn't well received. The guys found it threatening, like the other male companies. They weren't supportive. They would pretend to be me when they phone clients and withdraw me from bids. And so all of these things happen, and it all kind of took me by surprise, because I never thought I was less than anybody else. I could just do whatever I wanted to do, and that should be okay. But I realized that they never invited me to play in their sandbox, that I just showed up and I charged through their sandbox, and that it creates this really interesting dynamic. And I think as women, we need to be a little bit aware of where we're entering, because when we have this level of awareness, we can actually enter into male-dominated arenas much easier when we make the attempt to understand how the dynamic exists before we got there. I think too often as women, we go into things and say, well, I'm here and now you have to adjust to me. And I think if we could do it the other way and say, how do I adjust to make this work for everybody? We end up doing a lot better, a lot faster.
Well, I do think that all of us get a shock when we go into business. I believe it or not, when I went into business, within the first 2 weeks, now remember, I was 21 years old and green as could be, and I had the most powerful person in my industry send me a cease and desist letter. And
Wow.
I didn't even know what that was. I didn't know what it meant. I had to call an attorney and say, can you tell me what this means? And it was because she was threatened by me, which I thought was amazing, since I had only been in business for 2 weeks and really was green behind the ears. So there are things that happen to you that you can't predict. I mean, you can look at all kinds of different things and be prepared for all kinds of different things, but you aren't prepared for something that comes out of the blue. So did you find that, for example, you were competing against these big companies, and they were calling and saying, oh yeah, I'm her, and I'm withdrawing my bid. But did you start off doing jobs that required you to compete with the big companies, or did you start off doing smaller jobs where people got to know you individually and hire you and then work up to the others? Or did you just start off and right away people were saying, you're not coming in here?
That latter bit. Yeah.
Wow.
And all
That's
I was
amazing.
worried about, sorry?
I said, that's amazing.
Well, I'd been painting for 5 years at that point, and I was still young enough to think that how hard could it be? So I dove right in, but my only focus was to put food on the table. Like, I was totally unprepared to deal with the backlash of me being there. In retrospect, I was able to see how I navigated it and what worked and what didn't. But at the time, it was a bit of a shocker. I didn't understand where the fear was coming from, because I lost a lot of work because I was a female company and people thought I couldn't do it. And so while advertising female, because the name of my company is Sunshine Girls Painting, advertising female kept those people away that didn't think women could do it. There was the people that were attracted to it because they believed women could do it. So again, double-edged sword. And sometimes it worked in my favor and sometimes it didn't. And I thought, I'll just roll with these punches.
So what did you learn from that experience?
I learned, I think I was fortunate in some way because I had no mentors. And so I had to figure out everything myself. And I learned so much about business and what works and what doesn't, how to pay attention, how to listen, and most importantly, how to just be a female in business, because men and women go about different business very differently, because we're different. And I've seen women come and go through the industry and they just act like men, and but they deny that feminine gold that we have. We have a lot of feminine power. My whole system is structured around compassion for my client, understanding, listening, educating. And that's a very female approach. Whereas with men, they tend to just be more about doing the task at hand with less of that other fluff. And so I was able to really understand how being a woman benefited me in business.
And so were many of your employees women, or were they a combination of them, or primarily men?
At the beginning, men wouldn't apply because nobody wanted to be a sunshine girl if they were a dude. Um, and so, yeah, I
Unless
did.
you had a great sense of humor. If you had a great sense of humor, that would have been fine.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and there was still guys that would apply, and then after 2 weeks, they would be like, "Well, you're making more money than me, and I'm the guy, so you need to pay me more." And I'd be like, "What? No, I don't think it quite works that way. You're welcome to leave." Um, but it was it was a really interesting experience, and that has sort of led me into my next business, and yeah, I think you just roll with the punches, and I got
And
good at it.
so, were your clients in the beginning, who hired you primarily in the beginning? I guess is my question.
Um, well, I probably had and this was 20 years ago, so Yellow Pages was kind of the place to be. And so when people open a phone book, they don't necessarily know how long you've been in business. So my demographic was really um, older older people, probably and I'm saying I'm 49, but older in terms of like 45 onward, um, because they're less likely to do their own work. They tended to be better educated. Um, they tend to be more, I think, socially aware if they're hiring women for the trades. I think there has to be a level of awareness there. And so I really, truly have the best customers. I'm so fortunate.
So what business are you in now? Do you no longer have the painting business?
I still have it. I just, my involvement with it is less. My son is running my cruise. He's the sun in sunshine. And so
And
he's
he's
just
a
my,
sunshine girl. See
that's
that?
right. Yeah, and I do have men on my team now as well. And some, of course, other painting companies complain about that. They're like, "Oh, that's false advertising because you hire dudes." And I'm like, how about you pay attention to your own business? Because my customers don't care. My business now is called Domino Thinking. So it's something that I am creating in order to have conversations with people to challenge people to think about what they think about. I think we're in a very busy state in our lives, and we jump onto ideas without really thinking about where they're going to take us, or even if they're actually representative of who we are.
So give me your pros and cons about business.
Uh, Pros is if you do it right, you can have lots of freedom. You can make choices. You can fire clients if you don't like them. And you can really use your business. I believe that we can use our business as a way to do good in the world. And that's how we treat ourselves in our business, how we treat our staff in the business, our customers in our community. How do we give back? And I wrote a book about that because I think we can do so much good with our business when we understand that it's a tool for betterment of society. And cons is it's really long hours. It can sometimes be lonely work. It's especially if you're a solopreneur and there's a hierarchy in your system. So like for me, I had staff, but I was always on the outside because I was the boss. So the bonding is different. And how we interact with people that we're working with, but we're not really part of their group. And I'm not sure we should be. And because that sort of crosses some lines, I think, when it comes to leadership. So I would say those are the biggest cons. Yeah, it's a lot of work. It's not about sitting around eating bonbons and watching soap operas.
Well, that's for sure. They say that creating your own business and being an entrepreneur is freeing from having a job, a job. But I have found that most entrepreneurs, it takes a lot to get started, and they do work longer hours for less money in the beginning because it's a 24/7 kind of thing. Eventually, if you structure your organization correctly, you should be able to do it the way you want it to, but it means you have to have the right team in place. You've got to be able to delegate. You have to be able to relinquish a lot of the things that you believe you are the only one who can do it, and that kind of thing. But I had an interesting thing happen just the other day. I saw on Facebook that one of my former teachers who taught for me in my career schools had a 90th birthday party and a 90th birthday. And frankly, she looks as good now as she did then.
Wow.
And I wished her a happy birthday, and I said, I hope everything is going well because she doesn't live here anymore. And she wrote me back and said she hoped everything was well with me and how much she missed the times that she had working for me because it was the best time of her life. And
Wow.
I thought, how nice is that? How wonderful is that? That people at that age, at 90, say, wow, the time I spent working with you was the best I had. I just love that. So
Yeah. And that's
hopefully
that
we,
stuff that I talk about, that impact that we can have in the world. And that you can't put a price tag on that. You can't undermine the value of it.
exactly, exactly. So you said you've got this book. Tell us about it, what's in it, the name of it, where people can get it. Tell us about it.
The book is called Think Opposite: Using the Domino Effect to Change Your Business, Change the World. And it really does focus on those 4 pillars. Why are you in business? And I think this is a really, really big piece that business owners forget. We worry so much about the pain of our client that we forget about the pain that's motivating us. So I do this little exercise, what's the worst? And I ask people to imagine that they're in a restaurant and they overhear somebody talking about them and their business. What is the worst thing that you could hear somebody say? So, if we're talking about my painting company, if somebody said I wasn't the best painter in town, that would sting a little bit, but I would be like, okay, maybe there's somebody out there better. That's possible. But if somebody said that I didn't give value, that would be devastating to me. I would want to go over, interrupt their conversation and say, excuse me, how do I fix this? And so, what I realized by understanding that is that every part of my business had to be built on value because that was my pain point. And every time I felt like my value was slipping, I got uncomfortable. I got that knot in my stomach and I had a harder time looking in the mirror. So, it's so important that we understand why we are in business and what our own pain points are. So my whole business in painting is structured around educating because I want people to feel like they got value in it. I have created a color consultation system so that they have extra value. I can teach them how to understand color. I have very, very detailed quotes because I think that provides more value for my clients. And every system, if it doesn't check off that value box, has to keep getting tweaked until it does. And I think that's that cornerstone of really solid business. And from there, once you understand what your pain point is, your clients will be more attracted to your way you've set things up, and then you can address their pain points.
So I think that's great. I love the idea. That's a great thing for anybody listening to think about. If you heard somebody at a table next to you in a restaurant talking about your business, what would be the worst thing that they could say? And wow, that's brilliant. I like that. I mean, I
Thanks.
can't even imagine what you would. I think I would shoot out of my either I would shoot out of my chair and go over the way, or I would shrink under the table. I'm not sure which I would do,
Right.
but that's I like that. I like that. So
Mm.
what is it that makes you love business so much, Allison? Is it the fact that it helped you get out of a horrible situation, or was it the fact that you knew this was your path, or what was it exactly?
Oh gosh, well, those are 2 really good points that definitely contribute to my love of business. I think there is so freedom is a big thing for me, and I believe there's so much freedom in business. You're free to change your mind. You're free to enter new programs or introduce new things. You can turn on a dime. It's not like some of these big corporations that take forever to implement change. If you see a problem, you can change your business and address that problem. And I'm able to contribute in ways that I want to contribute, not because it's mandated by another business owner. And, I'm really reluctant to get involved with organizations like the Better Business Bureau because they dictate how I would solve a problem with a customer. And I have my own process, and I like the freedom that comes along with if I have a problem with a customer, I get to fix it any way that I see fit. And the autonomy is huge for me.
That's interesting. I served in my other life, I served as chair of the Better Business Bureau in my
Mm.
area, and we were the third largest in the United States. And I was the first woman to do so. And, there is a process, but then again, at least with us, it was solve the problem. I mean, you figure out how to solve it. Whatever you do
Mm.
is fine with us.
Yeah.
There wasn't, I mean, there was a procedure to go through the paperwork, but the actual solution was really up to the organization. But I believe, Alice, and I'm wondering how you think about this. There are people who shouldn't be in business. I mean, they just shouldn't be in business. They want to go to a job and they want their pay, whatever it is, and their benefits, whatever they are, and they want to get up and be able to come home when they know they would be able to do that. And they spend their time with either their spouse's initiatives or their kids' games, etc. And they want a paycheck, and that's all they want.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
And I assume that's a lot of the people you have working for you.
That's why there's nothing wrong with that.
True, true.
Yeah.
So I think the younger people today prefer the life of the entrepreneur. I do see that happening more and more. When I went into business 60 years ago, I mean, it was just a phenomenon, But I just knew I wasn't going to be able to work for anybody. I wouldn't be able to do anything that I considered stupid, and so whatever happened happened. And the biggest shock I got was when I realized that these people who worked for companies actually got paid to go to these conferences that I had been paying for and for training that I had been paying for. But I thought, well, I'd still rather be independent. However, I'm wondering with you, how now you have a son in your business now who's running it, who evidently has the characteristics of an entrepreneur. How does he handle dealing with his mom as the owner or the person who brought him in?
Well, we have navigated those waters. It has been a struggle because you got to take off the mom hat and put on the boss hat, and he has to take off the son hat and put on the employee hat, or now the co-owner hat. And so we've had to tread carefully in those waters, and sometimes we tread nicer than others, but we do things. We have outings together to remember that we like each other outside of work.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So we try to get away like at least once a month we'll head over to the mainland and, hang out in the city and go and do escape rooms or go to a gun range or something, and just have fun together. And more we introduce that in our staff as well, so that there is this constant appreciation and team building going on. But it is challenging working for family, for sure.
Wow. Well, why don't you tell our listeners how to get in touch with you and maybe something you might want to offer them or anything like that at all?
Right. You can reach me on my website, dominothinking.com, or you can shoot me off an email, Alison with one L, ALISON, at dominothinking.com. And I do my best to answer all of my emails. I'm not always fast, but I will answer the emails. And if anybody has any questions or wants some input on something or comments, I'm more than happy to entertain that. And I do have a audio copy of my book. If the listeners would like it, if they use the promo code Radio Gift, they can go there and download my audiobook for free.
Fantastic. That's great. So they can go to your website, you'll answer them, they can email you, they can get the book as an audio gift. All of that is so enticing. And I think the fact that you started a business that is really off the charts. I mean, normally we're not talking to people who start house painting companies. So the fact that you're able to do that, and now you're really working on changing people's attitudes towards a lot of different thinking processes, which is so important, So I just think that's perfect. So
thanks.
We've got about 2 minutes left. What is it that we haven't said or covered that you would like to, Alison?
I just want to briefly talk about my part. I'm creating a course around it. And my part is that understanding that we have contributed to every situation we find ourselves in, with maybe the exception of 1 or 2% of things that we find ourselves in, we have done something to contribute our space there. So I contributed to being on welfare. I wasn't a victim of welfare. I contributed to being on there as a result of the choices that I made. And I believe in understanding how we contribute to our lives helps give us freedom in our life, because we're no longer somebody else's victim. We're understanding our own worthiness. And I really want people to understand their own worth. And because we moved away from it, I talk about how this little tiny sperm finds this little tiny egg and makes you, which is a miracle, and therefore you're worthy. And then life happens and we forget we're worthy. And I believe that my part is a way of getting us back into understanding our own worthiness.
Fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. Well, now remember, her website is dominothinking.com. Her code for her gift is radio gift for her book, if you want to get her book, and email her. I mean, she's happy to talk to you and give you whatever knowledge she has, and I think that you would be better off by doing that, because she is one fabulous lady. So,
Aw, thank you. I think you rock too. You are amazing.
Well, thank you. But again, thank you so much, Alison, for being with us today. I mean, we really treasure these moments when there are women out there who can show you how to take the situation you're in and not lament about it, but really take action on it. And that's what it's all about. So thank you for being with us. And people who are listening, get in touch with Alison. It'll be well worth your while.
And thank you so much for having me. I so appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Women in Business. I hope you enjoyed today's show. And if you have any suggestions as to who you'd like me to have as a guest, just email me at gaylecarson13@gmail.com. Be sure to check out www.sob6tips.com. And in the meantime, go to www.spunkyoldbroad.com to see the resources I have for you.